Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. That's how that's what we know. And so that's what we replicate.
Yeah. And that's what I have the conversation a lot because I've had it with myself, but with clients who have like anger towards their parents or like guilt and shame with themselves. And the reality is, like, every single day we do our very best given the tools and knowledge that we have at that exact moment. So you can't, like, again, I can't be did he intentionally want to leave and go to jail? No, but he was doing whatever he thought was best for him and his family at that given time.
Right.
And the same thing I did during my high school years, through my college years and all that. It's just how we operate. We don't know any better.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of freedom in that.
Have you gotten to a point, I think you have, but have you gotten to a point where you've thanked your dad for what he did when you were a kid?
Yes, I've subconsciously thanked him. And again, he's his own person. So like if I do bring it up to him, that how it affected me, he still comes from the thing, like, things could always be worse. What do you got to complain about?
Yeah.
And that's fine. He's allowed to have that, but it serves me no purpose to have nothing but love and respect and kindness towards him. So I've thanked him subconsciously. Yeah.
Well, as long as you're in a place where you're thanking him,
Yeah.
right? That's really all that matters.
Right. Right.
The
Yeah.
actual thanking him to face to face, that's not
Right.
that's not the
No,
biggest
I've
thing.
set
The
myself
biggest
free
thing
of
is
it.
you getting to where you had to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How did your mom get to you before you were successful committing suicide?
So up until that actual point, I was on a very dark downward spiral. And she
You
only
saw
lived
it.
like, yeah, she only lives like five minutes away from me. So she was always like on edge. Because like I used to, like, no exaggeration, cover my bedroom walls and my kitchen cabinets with sticky notes. And on every sticky note, I wrote something negative about myself. And I looked at them like every single day. And so she had the mom sense, like a heightened sense. If I didn't respond with an amount of time, she knew something was up.
Yeah.
And she'd text me in the morning and I didn't text back in a certain amount of time, and she naturally came over and got me out of there.
Thank God for your mom.
Yes, thank God for my mom. Yeah,
Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking.
I know. But yeah, it's again one of those things that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. Okay. So mom comes over and gets to you before before you're successful, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And you've now officially hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, go to all kinds of counseling and therapy and all that stuff.
Did it help?
To get help.
Did it help?
Well, so what I was going to say is, so I went to like every form of therapy, traditional therapy, shock therapy, and all that stuff. And it didn't help in the sense of, like, it just felt like it was just like a standard operating procedure. They ask the same questions. It doesn't matter, what your response is. They're on to the next question. And one of the most insightful things is, after you attempt suicide, every time you talk to a therapist, they always ask you, do you feel like hurting yourself today? Or have you thought about hurting yourself today? And that just shows me how disconnected they are, because myself, and I'm pretty sure anybody else, is not trying to hurt themselves. They're trying to get away from the hurt.
Yeah, but don't they have to do that for liability purposes?
They might, but
I
they
bet
don't
they
have,
do.
but they don't have like a conversation about.
So when they would ask you that, did you shut down?
No, I just say no. I have no desire to hurt myself. When I tried to kill myself, I didn't want to hurt myself.
But did it affect
Yeah.
you sharing with them? Like,
Yeah.
did you close up?
I wouldn't say close up. I was more a little shorter with them.
So less likely to share is what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
So you basically closed up.
Yeah. I guess you could say close up.
Sorry,
I
I'm
feel
not
like
trying to be right here. What I'm saying is, I think it's important that we talk about this, okay?
Yeah.
Because where you were, there are people that are going to listen to this podcast that are headed there, okay?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And it's important, I feel, that people understand that, therapy is important.
Yes.
But one size fits all therapy is just not, I mean, it's, for lack of a better term, it makes you feel like a number.
Yes.
Right? You feel like, okay, they're not asking me about me. They're asking me what they have to ask, right? That's on the
100%.
playlist. That's a script. That's, you with me?
Yes.
And by the way, they're going to grab the same script for the next person that comes in.
Yes.
Okay. So how is that helping me?
Right. Yes. Very well said. Very well said.
I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to say it right. I'm just trying to point it out, because really, honestly, there are people that are listening to this that have been through what you've been through, and there are other people that are headed down that road.
Yeah.
And one of the absolute most invaluable things that I think you're doing is letting people know that I went through this. I was there, right? And your life story sort of shares how you sort of got to that point. Like it just kept building and kept building and kept building and kept building. And as it built, you put up a bigger and bigger wall.
Yes.
And it got to a place to where it was an impenetrable wall, right? And you were doing it because you had this place in you that you had to protect.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And what I want people who are listening to this that are headed down that road to realize that the time to talk to somebody is now, right?
Yes.
The time to talk to somebody is before you get to the place where you're putting Post-it notes on the wall about how negative you feel about yourself, and you've built that wall up to where the only other option out, the only other thing you can do to protect yourself is to end it.
Yeah, 100%.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes tons of sense, because I remember I was at the point where I knew things weren't good and I needed help, and literally sitting at this exact computer, I reached out to 12 different therapists and had to leave a voicemail or send an email, and I didn't hear back from any of them. So once I did get to the therapy, it was just like there was a disconnect.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect for me. So I turned to a pastor to mentor me, because another thing is, if you are having those dark thoughts about ending your life or just expressing a thought about it, if you say it to the wrong person, they'll immediately Baker Act you.
Yeah.
And completely. And so,
okay, so hold on. No, hold on. I know what Baker Act is. Explain to our listeners what Baker Act is.
So that just means you get admitted to the hospital against your will. Right.
So they're going to report to the authorities. The authorities are going to come pick you up. Probably they'll handcuff you. They'll put you in the back of a police car and they'll take you to a hospital.
Yeah.
For observation.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what's called a Baker Act.
Yeah.
Or Baker acting you, right?
Yeah, you'll get Baker acted.
Yeah. So and in different states they don't do that, right? It's Florida's unique in that Florida understands mental health, I think, better than most states, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I lived there, by the way. If you know where Orlando Lakes is, I actually lived there for a year.
Okay.
So sold new homes there. So I'm thoroughly impressed with Florida. I think Florida has their stuff together.
Good to hear.
I'm a big fan.
Good.
So 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 you went to a pastor. What made you go to the pastor? Was it the fact that so okay, hold on, back up. So if somebody's listening to this and they're in the situation you're in,
Mhm.
and they're calling 12 different 12 different therapists, and they're getting voicemail and they have to email whatever, they're not getting a response. What would you suggest they do instead of going the other route,
So
right?
if they're listening, I would 100% tell them to send me a message
Okay.
directly on my
Okay.
social media, because I created this exact space for those situations.
Okay. So how does somebody get a hold of you if they're in crisis right now?
Yeah.
How do they get a hold of you on social media?
So you can send me a message on Facebook, which is just
Okay.
Newborn, my name, Derek
Okay.
Newborn,
It's
or on
DEREK, right?
yep,
Okay.
Newborn, just like newborn baby.
Son, newborn
Um,
baby.
If they're on Instagram, just message me at dnewborn.
Okay.
I keep it all organic in there. That's where I have all my conversations. And like I said, I've created this space specifically so that you can express yourself without being chastised, criticized, or me calling the police. Just a face to face,
There's no judgments, what you're saying.
no judgment. Like this is the whole reason why I created, because I've been in that situation. And all it does when you have nowhere to turn, all that did was just solidify everything that I'd written on the wall.
Right.
Like, you're not even worthy of getting help. That's
Right.
why. That's why.
And it reinforces that voice in your mind that it's time to end it, right?
Yeah.
One of the things we're going to do with this is probably save some lives,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people out there, especially post-COVID. Okay.
Oh yeah.
One of the things we learned during COVID was there's a lot of people on really thin ice,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
their lives took a spiral downward, and some of them are still trying to get it back. I mean, some of
Very
them,
much so.
still trying to get rid of the alcohol and the drug abuse and
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
the self-loathing thing that takes place.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're cooped up like that and you're climbing the walls and all that kind of thing. It's rough on you,
Yeah.
especially when
Very
you have
much
all this
so.
other stuff going on too.
Exactly.
So they reach out to you directly, no judgment, right?
Right. Yeah.
What made you go to the pastor?
I was out of options, to be honest. I was out
Kind of more
there.
desperation than anything else, right?
It was my last turn. And so I found somebody that I knew
Mhm.
had some downfalls and struggles in their life previously. And I've realized I needed that more than I needed a licensed therapist. I need somebody that can walk me through it, somebody that can acknowledge what I'm feeling and then help me build a plan to get out of it, not just
Oh, and
tell me
and
my
listen
time's up and sign the paperwork.
and listen to you,
Yeah.
right? And not
Yeah.
judge you.
Yeah. And so that helped tremendously. And then I kind of just hung on to um the resurrection of Jesus, and just really cling to that. If this person can come back to life, then I can come back to life. From here on out, like, life doesn't have to end. And it was literally just baby steps from there. I mean, I had so much social anxiety and so much shame and embarrassment from everything that I'd done. Like, I would just self-medicate with pills and alcohol on my couch just to pass the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it helped me to just start taking my dog out for a walk downtown, and then taking myself to lunch, and then building my self-confidence, and then being able to interact with people without thinking they're just subconsciously criticizing me or going to say bad things about me. So it was a very step-by-step process that got me through it. And like I said, once I took ownership of it, that was the biggest game changer for
Yeah.
me. That was huge for me.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough because it's the easy way out is to blame everybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the easy way.
Yeah.
The tough thing is to sit down and go, okay, now what? Right.
Yeah.
And I gotta take this and I gotta own it. so that I can get better, right?
Yeah.
And like you
Yeah.
said, you know, tiny things like taking your dog out for a walk or going to lunch, and you know, they really are honestly baby steps, right? They're
Yeah.
little things that you do where you can kind of take one victory on top of another on top of another, and you stack them. You know,
Yeah.
dude, you've got to
Yeah.
write a book, seriously. Okay, so you get into, so after you hit rock bottom and you take ownership,
Mm-hmm.
you get into coaching,
Yes.
right?
Well, yeah. So I had my fitness coaching business,
Right.
and I started sharing my journey and all that, and the process that took me from rock bottom to where I'm at now.
Right.
And then so many people started reaching out that it naturally created a coaching program. So just like I connected with somebody that had the experience,
Mhm.
people were connecting with me because I had firsthand, and I was being super transparent about my dark side, about when I was a narcissist and all that stuff. And that really
Right.
connected with people. And that built the coaching business from there. So I take them through the exact steps that I went through.
So are narcissists born or are they built?
They're built. Nobody's born a narcissist. They're all created. And what people don't realize, and I feel like narcissist is such a buzzword these days, but narcissists are created, which means that, so like when I was most narcissistic was when I was in the relationship with my girlfriend. We were together for 7 years. So when I cheated or lied, she would always try to make things better, or forgive, and let's fix this. And all that did subconsciously, based on my trauma and my behavior, was just let me know that what I was doing was okay.
Mhm.
Right. So if she would have put a stop to it and ended our relationship, that might have prevented me from growing into that. Right. So people are so judgmental against narcissists, but they're created. Things have to happen for a person to become a narcissist.
You got to
Right.
be enabled,
Yeah. You have to be
right? And
enabled.
the
You
person
have to
that's
be built.
closest to you is the one that enables you,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
right? She thinks she's loving you,
Right.
right? And what
It's
she's really
enabling.
doing is building a monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not knowing it,
100%.
of course, but you know,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So you reach out, you're transparent with people,
mhm.
and it creates this coaching business.
Yes, sir.
So talk about how you coach people. So somebody's going through this, they're having a dark time, they're really going through a rough patch that's
Yeah.
similar to what you were going through. They reach out to you, what happens next?
Yeah. So once they reach out, we have a call. And the very first thing I ask them is, who is, who are you? So like I was asked, who's Derek Newborn? And what
Mhm,
happens is people will say, I'm a father, I'm a boss, I'm an employee, I'm a
mhm,
brother, I'm a great friend, whatever. So those are all actual attachments.
mhm,
Those are all titles, right? So
mhm.
the real question is, who are you if you woke up tomorrow with no friends, no family, no money, none of that? Who's that person?
Mhm.
And they have no idea, right? So if you have no idea who that person is, you have no process. You don't even know what you want. You don't know what you don't want,
You have no
right?
foundation,
You have no foundation, right?
nothing to build on.
Yeah. So then what we do is figure out all the things, all the negative things that they're telling themselves on a daily basis, right? And
How
from
do you
those,
how do you do that?
I literally tell them, write down what you say to yourself when you feel the worst about yourself.
Wow.
So they'll write them down. And so now they have a list of negative statements. Now
Do you
these
do
things
you
that they
do you
what's that?
dig further? Do you dig further to see if you can get even more?
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know they're going to stop, right? At some
Yeah.
point, they're going to, right? Because it's a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to stop, and you know,
Yeah.
so I'm getting the feeling that you are ahead of me already, right? But you're getting this from them, and you're kind of going, no, this is right. We need
Yeah.
to, right? So you
Yeah.
dig,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Because it's the same process I went through. So I I know kind of what's going on and
right?
where they're going with it. Um, and when they have all those negative things, we just flip them to the opposite, which is a positive statement.
Okay.
Okay. And these positive statements are most likely more closer to the person they actually are than these negative statements, because we're not put on this earth in this negative form. We're actually created and put on this earth with specific gifts and purposes. But through trauma, we essentially hide and put costumes on. And it's usually our trauma is to remind us of our gifts. So like my gift is to help others and inspire others. But my trauma was abandonment,
Right.
was isolation from people. So there's a law of polarity that applies to all of us.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It
Right.
does
So
to me, but you need to explain it.
yeah.
because-
So again, so if we start with these negative statements are in our head because we created them.
Right.
So by me flipping them into the positive, that puts us in a direction of the person that they actually are. So now
You're either going to go this way or you're going to go this way. That's
Right.
that law of polarity, right?
Yeah.
Polarity is you're going to attract, or you're going to, for lack of a better term, you're going to gravitate this way or you're going to gravitate this way. This way would be negative. This way would be positive.
Yeah. And what
Okay.
happens is whichever direction we go, we usually go in the negative way because of the trauma that we experience. So we end up creating what we fear the most,
Right.
right? Just like I feared abandonment. And guess what? I wound up abandoned in all sense of form.
Creating it, yeah.
Right? So
Driving people away.
exactly. So
Yeah.
just like those negative statements in their head because they created them,
Mhm.
the positive statements are also created by them in their head. They've just been buried for so long.
Right.
So then just like they've been shown through their trauma that they are these negative things, now we start to discover how many times it's actually been shown they are these positive things.
Gotcha.
And that's how we start building momentum into the foundation and taking ownership of the new life that they're creating.
So it starts to build on top of itself, just like the polarity to the negative.
Yeah.
The polarity to the positive starts to build on itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you snowball them.
Yeah. Yeah. Just over time.
Yeah.
Just over time. And it's not a constant linear progression. It's ups and downs. And the only way you grow is to experience. And then sometimes you're like, whoa, that's too much. And it sets you back a little bit, but you still grow either way.
Yeah.
So
I
by
have a good buddy of mine that's my former pastor, and he said, my humans are messy.
Yeah. Because what happened with me is once I got back on my feet, right? It's one thing to take ownership and be like, hey, I'm acknowledging I did all these things. I'm turning a new leaf. But that doesn't mean anybody in your life has to agree with it or believe it. Right. So that's kind of like a blow. You're like, well, I'm still alone here. Right. So you have to be fully committed and take ownership. And as I was progressing, another part of me that I didn't realize was unhealed is when people attack me directly based on my past was a trigger and would send me on a downward spiral because I'm doing all this work. Yeah. And then to hear somebody say you're still the same person was like crushing. And then that actually put me in a mental hospital for 7 days because of the downward spiral I was on. Yeah. So that's what I mean. It's not always linear. Like you get tested and then you learn from it. And now you come back stronger, even more.
Yeah, but see, the most important part of this is you're sharing this journey with them.
Yeah.
So they know what to watch out for, right? So the people that you've gone ahead of them is what I'm getting at, right? It's what a mentor and coach does. You've gone ahead of them. And so now you can prepare them for the fact that, hey, people are going to say things, right?
Yeah.
People are going to have opinions. There are going to be things, it's going to take time for you to change people's opinions and change people's judgment.
Yeah. And that's the thing I make sure they're clear on is just because you're doing all this work doesn't mean life gets easier.
Right.
You just have a stronger foundation. You have more tools to overcome the things.
Something to build on.
Yeah, you have something to build on. It doesn't mean all life's problems go away. It doesn't mean everybody is fine and dandy with you.
And actually, it might create more problems.
Yeah.
Right. Because the negative stuff is easier to believe.
100%. Yeah.
I still them too, right? For the people that are important in your life that you've surrounded yourself with, the negative stuff is easier for them to believe too.
Yeah.
So this is, right? You're preparing them to dig
Right.
out of this thing, and there's going to be some digging involved.
Yeah. Which is why the question, who are you, is so important, because what if tomorrow
Right.
your wife leaves you or something like that? You have to be rock solid on who you are and know exactly who you are, because you're going to be tested.
And be willing to take ownership of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we know how people get a hold of you. We'll put a link to it on your description. Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think I covered everything, unless there's anything else you want me to touch on.
No, I think we're good, buddy. I know we went a little deep, and I don't apologize for it, because there are people that are listening to this that needed us to do that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And they needed to know what you went through and what potentially they can do to dig their way out. So
Yes, sir.
you've got to write a book, by the way. I'm going to stay on you until you do. And then I'm going to have you come back and talk about the book you've written. Okay.
I appreciate that. That's a deal. You got it.
Buddy. I appreciate you. It was great to meet you. Derek Newborn, thank you for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Thanks.
You're awesome, buddy. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.